The soft hum of my laptop filled the tiny studio I'd turned into my creative haven. I was hunched over a photo shoot I'd done for a local boutique, adjusting the lighting on a shot of a vintage dress, when my phone buzzed on the desk. I glanced at the screen. Mom. My stomach did a little flip. Calls from her were rare, and they usually meant something was up with Sophie, my younger sister. I let it ring twice before picking up, bracing myself. "Lena, honey, finally." Mom's voice burst through, overly cheerful. "I've been dying to tell you, we're throwing a party for you. You know, to celebrate your big promotion, next Saturday at the house. Just family, a few cousins, nothing too fancy. Isn't that exciting?" I froze, my mouse hovering over the screen. "A party? For me? Wow, Mom. That unexpected," I said, trying to keep my tone even. "I was just gonna grab drinks with some friends from the magazine, but sure, that sounds nice. Thanks." "Oh, nonsense," she cut in. "You don't need some bar when you've got family who want to celebrate you. I've already told everyone. Cousin Anna, Uncle Ted, they're all coming. It's settled." I forced a smile she couldn't see. "Okay, Mom, I appreciate it." After a quick goodbye, I set the phone down and stared at the photo I'd been editing. A party for my promotion? In 34 years, I could count on one hand the times Mom had made a fuss over me. My birthdays growing up were quiet. Maybe a store-bought cake if I was lucky, or a second-hand book from the thrift store. Meanwhile, Sophie, 5 years younger, got the royal treatment. I still remember her 16th birthday. A backyard bash with a DJ, a new iPhone wrapped in shiny paper, the works. Me at 16, I got a pack of stale cookies and a "we're saving up" excuse. Sophie was the golden girl, Mom's perfect little angel. She could do no wrong, even when she dropped out of college after one semester or spent her days lounging instead of working. I'd learned early on not to expect much. By 18, I was out of the house, juggling waitressing gigs and photography jobs to pay for community college. No handouts, no safety net, just me and my hustle. That hustle paid off, though. Last month I'd landed a dream gig, creative director at a local lifestyle magazine. Years of freelancing, late nights editing in my cramped apartment, and pitching to clients had finally gotten me somewhere. And then there was my pride and joy, the vintage Mustang I'd bought 6 months ago, a 1967 Beauty cherry red, all mine for $40,000. I'd saved for it since I was 20, scraping together every bonus, every extra gig. It wasn't just a car. It was proof I didn't need anyone to hand me anything. I leaned back in my chair, the memory of driving that Mustang home still fresh, the rumble of the engine, the way the leather seats smelled. It felt like freedom. Mom had barely acknowledged it when I showed her, just a quick, "Oh, that's nice," before changing the subject to Sophie's latest drama. Typical. So why the sudden party? Part of me wanted to believe she'd finally noticed me. Lena, the daughter who'd made it on her own. Maybe turning 34 and landing this promotion had sparked some guilt in her. I shook my head, pushing the thought away. Hope was dangerous with my family. I turned back to my laptop, tweaking the contrast on the photo. The boutique shoot was due tomorrow, and I couldn't afford to slack off now. Whatever Mom was up to, I'd find out soon enough. For now, I had work to do, and a Mustang waiting in the driveway to take me wherever I damn well pleased. Saturday rolled around faster than I expected. I spent the morning in my apartment, fiddling with my camera settings and trying not to overthink the party. By 5 p.m., I was in my Mustang, cruising down the familiar streets of my hometown. The engine purred under me, and I cranked the window down, letting the cool evening air whip through my hair. I'd thrown on a black blazer over a white top, professional but not stiff, and let my dark curls loose for once. It felt good to look the part of the new creative director, even if it was just for family. When I pulled up to Mom's house, a modest 2-story place with peeling paint, the driveway was already packed. Cousin Anna's beat-up Honda sat next to Uncle Ted's old Chevy truck. I parked on the street, grabbed the bottle of wine I'd brought as a courtesy, and headed to the door. Before I could knock, Mom flung it open. Her face lit up like she'd won the lottery. "Lena, there's my star," she chirped, pulling me into a hug that smelled like lavender and dish soap. "Come in. Everyone's dying to see you." I stepped inside, blinking at the crowd. The living room was stuffed with relatives I hadn't seen in ages. Anna sipping iced tea, Uncle Ted cracking open a beer, a few cousins I barely recognized. Balloons bobbed in the corner, and a "Congrats, Lena" banner hung crookedly over the fireplace. It was nice. "Lena, you look amazing," Anna said, setting her glass down to hug me. "Heard about that promotion? Creative director, huh? Big deal." "Thanks," I grinned, feeling my shoulders relax. "It's been a wild ride." Uncle Ted wandered over, clapping me on the back. "Saw that Mustang out there. Sweet ride. Restored it yourself?" "Nay, bought it as is," I said, pride creeping into my voice. "Took me years to save up, but she's worth every penny." Across the room, I caught Sophie slouched on the couch, scrolling her phone. She was 29 now, all sharp cheekbones and dyed blonde hair, wearing a tight dress that screamed, "Look at me." She glanced up when Uncle Ted mentioned the car, her lips twitching into something between a smirk and a scowl, then went back to her screen. Typical Sophie. Couldn't stand anyone else getting the spotlight. The evening kicked off smoothly. Mom had made her famous chicken pot pie, my favorite, which she hadn't cooked for me since I was a kid. We ate at the dining table, plates clattering, voices overlapping. Relatives peppered me with questions about the magazine gig. What's it like running shoots? Any famous clients yet? I soaked it up, enjoying the rare chance to talk about my world. "Remember when Lena used to lug that old Polaroid everywhere?" Anna laughed. "Snapping pics of the dog, the mailbox. Girl was born with a camera in her hand." I chuckled. "Still got that Polaroid somewhere. Guess it paid off." Then came the gifts. Anna handed me a cute leather notebook for sketching shoot ideas. Uncle Ted gave me a gas station gift card. "For that Mustang," he winked. Simple stuff, but it felt good. Then Mom bustled over with a big box wrapped in gold paper. "This is from me and Sophie," she said, beaming. I peeled it open and my jaw dropped. A sleek, compact, mirrorless camera, the kind I'd been eyeing for months. It wasn't cheap, probably $600 at least. "Mom, this is—" "Wow," I stammered, running my fingers over the box. "Thank you. Seriously, only the best for my talented girl," she said, squeezing my shoulder. Sophie looked up from her phone long enough to mutter, "Yeah, congrats," before diving back into whatever she was typing. I should have been thrilled, and I was, for a minute, but something nagged at me. Mom didn't do extravagant. Last Christmas, she'd given me a $10 scarf while Sophie got a designer purse. This camera? It didn't fit. I brushed it off, telling myself to enjoy the night. Maybe she really was proud of me. Maybe things were changing. As the party wound down, my phone buzzed with a text. It was Sophie. "How day's your day, huh? Don't get too full of yourself, big sis." I stared at it, the words dripping with that familiar petty edge she'd always had. I shoved the phone back in my pocket, ignoring the sting. She'd been like this since we were kids, snarky whenever I got an ounce of attention. Whatever. I wasn't here for her approval. I grabbed another slice of pie and chatted with Anna about her new job, letting the warm buzz of the night drown out Sophie's jab. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that this party wasn't as simple as it seemed. Mom's smile, the fancy gift, Sophie's quiet sulking. It all felt like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't figured out yet. The last of the cousins trickled out around 9 p.m., leaving behind a mess of paper plates and half-empty glasses. I was stacking dishes in the kitchen, still buzzing from the night, when Mom called me back to the living room. "Lena, sweetie, hold off on that. Come sit. We need to talk." Her voice had shifted, losing that bubbly edge from earlier. My gut tightened, but I wiped my hands on a dish towel and headed over. Sophie was still sprawled on the couch, phone in hand, but she'd put it down now, her eyes flicking up to meet mine. Mom perched on the armchair, hands clasped tight in her lap. The air felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. I sank onto the couch opposite them, forcing a casual tone. "What's up?" Mom took a deep breath, glancing at Sophie like they'd rehearsed this. "It's about your sister," she started. "Sophie's in a bit of a bind. You know how she's been working on that startup project? The online boutique thing? Well, it hasn't gone as planned." I raised an eyebrow. Sophie's startup was news to me. Last I'd heard, she was bouncing between odd jobs. Bartending, selling handmade bracelets on Etsy. Nothing serious. "Okay, how bad is it?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "It's $50,000, Mom said, her voice dropping low. She took out loans to get it off the ground. Inventory, marketing, a website. But the market's tough, and she's behind on payments. The bank's breathing down her neck now." I blinked, trying to process it. 50 grand? For a boutique? I looked at Sophie, who shrugged like it was no big deal. "Business is risky," she said, picking at her nails. "I thought it'd take off. Trendy clothes, influencers, the whole vibe. Didn't pan out." "Didn't pan out?" I echoed, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. "Sophie, that's more than I make in a year freelancing. How do you even get approved for that kind of loan?" "She had a solid plan," Mom jumped in, defensive, "and she's been helping me out with some of the profits when things were good. She's family, Lena. She needs us." I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to ask what profits Sophie could have possibly shared when she was clearly drowning. Instead, I nodded slowly. "Right. So, what's the plan? You're telling me this because—" Mom hesitated, then leaned forward. "We think you could help. That Mustang of yours. It's worth, what, $40,000, maybe more. If you sold it, it'd cover most of Sophie's debt. She could get back on her feet, start fresh." The room went dead quiet. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, but her face stayed serious. Sophie smirked faintly, like she'd known this was coming. "Sell my car?" I said, my voice low and tight. "The one I spent a decade saving for? Are you kidding me?" "Lena, don't be dramatic," Mom snapped. "It's just a car. Family helps family. This is what we do. Sophie's in trouble, and you're doing so well now with that fancy job you can buy another one later. I laughed, a short, bitter sound I couldn't hold back. Just a car. Mom, that Mustang's not some random junker. It's mine. My reward for years of busting my ass while you two poured everything into her, and now you want me to bail her out? Sophie finally sat up, tossing her hair back. Well, Lena, way to make it all about you. I've been grinding too, you know. I even gave Mom money when she needed it. Unlike you, sitting pretty with your magazine gig and your precious car. Maybe if you cared about us, you'd step up. Step up, I shot back, heat rising in my chest. I've been stepping up my whole life, paying my own way while you got handouts. Where's all that boutique money now, Sophie? What'd you blow it on? Those designer boots I saw on your Instagram last week? Her face flushed, but she didn't answer. Mom stood up, voice rising. That's enough. We're not here to fight. Sophie needs help, and as her big sister, you should want to support her. It's the right thing to do. The right thing. I stood too, my hands shaking. What about what's right for me? I worked 10 years for that car. 10 years of no vacations, no splurges, just saving every dime. You never cared about my wins, but the second Sophie screws up, I'm supposed to fix it? Mom's eyes narrowed. You're being selfish, Lena. I thought that promotion would have taught you some generosity. She marched to the coffee table, snatched up the gold-wrapped camera box she'd given me earlier, and held it tight. If you won't help your sister, you don't deserve this. Take your damn car and go. I stared at her, the sting of it hitting harder than I expected. Sophie smirked again, leaning back like she'd won something. My throat burned, but I swallowed it down. Fine, I said, grabbing my blazer off the couch. Keep your gift. I don't need it. Or this guilt trip. Lena, wait. Mom started, but I was already heading for the door. You're walking out on us? Over a car? No, I said, turning back just long enough to meet her eyes. I'm walking out on this bullshit. Happy party, Mom. I stormed outside, the cool night air hitting my face as I yanked the Mustang's door open. The engine roared to life, louder than my pounding heart, and I peeled out of there without looking back. My phone buzzed, probably Mom or Sophie with some parting shot, but I tossed it onto the passenger seat, ignored. The drive home was a blur. I kept replaying it, Mom's demand, Sophie's smug little jab about helping her. 50 grand in debt for a boutique? Something didn't add up. Sophie wasn't dumb. She was reckless, sure, but this felt off. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, the Mustang's rumble grounding me. They weren't getting my car, no way in hell. But as I pulled into my apartment lot, a nagging thought crept in. What was Sophie hiding? The next few days were a mess of adrenaline and exhaustion. I threw myself into work, editing proofs, sketching shoot concepts, anything to keep my mind off that damn party. But every quiet moment it crept back. Mom's voice, sharp and accusing. Sophie's smirk, the way they'd turned my promotion into a shakedown. I kept my phone on silent, but the notifications piled up. Missed calls, texts, all from Mom. I didn't read them, not yet. By Tuesday, I couldn't avoid it anymore. I sat on my couch with a cup of black coffee, scrolling through the damage. Mom's first message was tame. Lena, call me. We need to talk this out. Then it got uglier. You're so ungrateful after all we've done. Sophie's crying. She can't believe you'd abandon her. Sophie's texts were worse. Nice job proving you're a selfish bitch. Enjoy your stupid car. Hope it keeps you warm when you're I tossed the phone down, my chest tight. Ungrateful? Abandon her? The irony burned. For years I'd been the one quietly holding things together. I'd never told Mom this, but since I'd started freelancing full-time 5 years ago, I'd been sending her $800 a month. It started when she'd complained about the mortgage after Dad left. $500 for the house, $300 for utility. She never asked, I just did it thinking that's what you do for family. 5 years. That's $48,000 I'd handed over, no questions asked, while Sophie flitted around playing entrepreneur. I grabbed my laptop, pulled up my banking app, and stared at the recurring transfers. My finger hovered over the screen. Then I did it, 2 clicks, and they were gone. Cancelled. Done. My hands shook as I opened an email draft. Come on, Sophie. Since you've made it clear I'm not part of this family unless I sell my Mustang, I'm done pretending. I've been sending you $800 every month for years, $500 for the mortgage, $300 for bills. That stops now. I'm not a bank for people who don't give a damn about me. Don't contact me again. Lena. I hit send before I could second guess it, then slammed the laptop shut. It felt like ripping off a bandage, painful but freeing. My phone stayed quiet for maybe an hour before it exploded again. Mom, how dare you cut us off like this? Call me now. Sophie, you're screwing us over to spite me? Real mature, Lena. I blocked their numbers, one by one, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. The rest of the week was eerie, silent in a way I wasn't used to. No guilt trips, no demands. I slept better, worked sharper, but it didn't last. Friday afternoon I was in my studio tweaking a layout for the magazine when my assistant buzzed me. Lena, your mom's here. She's, pretty worked up. What do you want me to do? My stomach dropped. Tell her I'm in a meeting, I said, buying time, but 5 minutes later I heard her voice through the door, loud, insistent. I'm not leaving until I see my daughter. I cursed under my breath and grabbed my phone, texting my best friend, Claire. She's a lawyer, sharp as hell, and the only person I'd vented to about this mess. Mom's at my studio, threatening to make a scene. Can you come? She replied instantly. On my way, 10 minutes. I stepped out to the lobby, arms crossed. Mom stood there, red-faced, clutching her purse like a weapon. Lena Marie Carter, you think you can just cut us off and hide? We're drowning without that money. Sophie's a wreck. Creditors calling non-stop. This is your fault. My fault, I snapped, keeping my voice low but firm. You demanded I sell my car, for her mess. I'm done being your ATM. You're heartless, she shouted, loud enough that my assistant peeked out, wide-eyed. We raised you, and this is how you repay us? I'll tell everyone what a selfish brat you are. I'll show up here every day if I have to. Enough, I said, stepping closer. You don't get to bully me anymore. My phone buzzed. Claire. I looked up as she strode in, all business in her blazer and heels. Lena, you okay? Claire asked, then turned to Mom. Mrs. Carter, I'm Claire Dawson, Lena's friend and legal counsel. You're on private property, harassing my client. Leave now or we'll escalate this. Mom faltered, her mouth opening and closing. This is a family matter, she sputtered. Not when you're threatening her at work, Claire shot back, cool as ice. You've got 30 seconds to walk out, or I'm calling security, and then the cops. Mom glared at me, pure venom in her eyes, then spun on her heel and stormed out, muttering something about disgraceful. Claire squeezed my arm. You good? Yeah, I said, exhaling hard. Thanks for that. Any time, she grinned. They'll think twice now. I drove home that night in the Mustang, windows down, letting the wind strip away the day. Mom's threats echoed, but they didn't stick. I'd drawn a line and it felt damn good. Still, Sophie's debt story gnawed at me. $50,000 for a boutique? I didn't buy it. Something was off, and I had a sinking feeling I'd find out soon enough. The next week felt like a dream. No calls, no texts, just quiet. I threw myself into the magazine gig, nailing a cover shoot with a local artist that had my boss raving. The Mustang sat gleaming in my parking spot, a reminder I'd held my ground. I started to think maybe Mom and Sophie had given up. Wishful thinking, I guess. Saturday morning, I was brewing coffee when my buzzer went off. I checked the intercom. Cousin Anna's voice crackled through. "Lena, it's me. Got a minute?" I led her up, curious. Anna didn't drop by unannounced, and after last week, I wasn't sure what to expect. She stepped in, her usual warm smile replaced by something tighter, almost grim. "Hey," she said, settling on my couch while I poured her a mug. "I've got some news. You might want to sit for this." I slid into the armchair across from her, coffee in hand. "What's going on? Mom send you to guilt trip me?" Anna snorted. "Hardly. She's too busy spinning her sob story to anyone who'll listen. Says you abandoned her over a misunderstanding. But I'm here because I found out what's really happening with Sophie." My stomach twisted. "The debt? The boutique thing?" "Oh, it's way worse than that," Anna said, leaning forward. "At $50,000. It's not just from some failed startup. Sophie cooked up a scam with her sleazy boyfriend, Derek. They pitched this fake online store, exclusive fashion drops, all that crap, to a bunch of investors, including your mom. She didn't just co-sign a loan, she handed over $20,000 from her savings. Thinking she'd get rich quick, the whole thing was a sham. No inventory, no website, just a fancy Instagram page and a lot of lies." I nearly dropped my mug. Wait, what? Mom gave her 20 grand? And Sophie scammed her own mother? "Yup," Anna nodded, her voice dark. "Derek took off with most of the cash when the investors started asking questions. Sophie's left holding the bag and the debt. Mom only found out a few days ago when the bank called about her emptied account. She's losing the house now, Lena. Foreclosure's already in motion." I sat back, my head spinning. Sophie's smug face at the party flashed in my mind, her little "I've been helping Mom" line, helping her right into ruin. "So that's why they wanted my car," I said slowly, "not just to cover Sophie's mess, but Mom's too. Jesus." "Pretty much," Anna said. "Sophie's been selling off her stuff, those Gucci bags, her phone, to scrape by, but it's not enough. She moved back in with your mom last night. They're broke, Lena. Completely broke." I let out a long breath, a mix of shock and something else. Relief, maybe? "And Mom's still defending her?" "Barely," Anna said. "She called me crying, begging me to talk to you, said she can't manage without your money, but I told her she burned that bridge. She didn't argue much after that." I stared at the steam curling off my coffee, letting it sink in. Sophie hadn't just screwed herself. She'd dragged Mom down with her. And me? They'd tried to make me the fix. I waited for guilt to hit, but it didn't. Instead, I felt unburdened. "Thanks for telling me, Anna," I said finally. "I needed to know." She smiled, softer now. You deserve better than their mess. Always have. After a quick hug, she left, promising to keep me posted if anything else blew up. That afternoon, my phone rang. Mom's number, unblocked somehow. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice came through, shaky. "Lena, honey, please, we're in trouble. I didn't mean those things. I just want us to be a family again. Call me." I deleted it, no hesitation. They'd made their choices. Monday at work, I closed a deal for a 6-figure campaign. My biggest yet. The team cheered and my boss slapped a bonus check on my desk. I drove the Mustang home that night, top down, the city lights blurring past. Sophie and Mom were a distant echo now, their chaos no longer my problem. A few weeks later, Anna called again. "Thought you'd like an update," she said, a grin in her voice. "Sophie got a job, cashier at some grocery store downtown. Nothing glamorous, but it's something, and your mom's renting a tiny apartment now. They're managing, I guess." "Good," I said, meaning it. "Maybe they'll figure it out." After we hung up, I grabbed my camera, the old Polaroid from my kid days, and headed to the riverfront. I'd been shooting more lately, just for me, capturing sunsets and strangers and little moments of beauty. My phone pinged, a text from my friend Rachel, confirming our road trip next month. We'd take the Mustang up the coast, no schedule, no obligations. I framed a shot of the water, the sun dipping low, and clicked the shutter. The Polaroid whirred, spitting out the photo. As it developed, I leaned against my car, the cool metal solid under my hand. For the first time in 34 years, my life was mine, built by me for me. Mom and Sophie could keep their wreckage. I had the open road ahead, and that was more than enough.